morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for being here tonight to help celebrate my sister Lynn's life. Many of you have known her for a long time, and you all know that there wasn't an obstacle she couldn't overcome. She was a lifelong learner, and she loved to create. But many of you, in fact, none of you knew her as a young person when I did. So let me crack open the window just a little bit and give you a glimpse of Lynn's early years and what helped her become the adult that she was in life. When Lynn was 3 years old, her family expanded by one. That would be me, her baby sister. About a year after that, our family moved to Tonasket, Washington. And about a year after that, our family was splintered. My mother was institutionalized with manic depression, which in today's terms would be called bipolar disorder. My sister went to live with my father's parents, and I went to live with my mother's parents. So we were separated for a period of time. Sometime after that, we were reunited, and we landed in Gibsonia, Pennsylvania, which is a small rural town. Can't call it much, even that much really, it just had a post office. About 30 years north of Pittsburgh. As my mother's condition deteriorated, Lynn began to take over the house. She began to take over the cooking, the cleaning, the laundry, the chores of the household. By the time she was 12, she was doing all of it. Now, cooking Lynn liked because it allowed her to be somewhat creative. Chores, household chores, vacuuming, doing the laundry, she detested those things. And as soon as she was able to, she passed those on to me, her little sister. I remember a particular meal where, now you have to remember, she was probably 13 or 14 years old at the time. She prepared a roast goose. And the roast goose caught fire. Lynn, with her creativity and ability to overcome any obstacle, threw a wet towel on it, shrugged it off, said, "It's good," and we continued with the meal. And it was excellent. She also would do things like make her own sauces, her own hollandaise sauce. And I remember a dessert made from chocolate wafers and homemade whipped cream. No challenge was too big for Lynn when it came to cooking. The vacuuming, the ironing, those kind, and by the way, in those days we ironed our sheets and our pillowcases as well as clothes. She hated those things. In fact, what Lynn loved to do the most was read. Among all the other things that she could do, she loved to read. We were fortunate enough to live within walking distance of a very small library, and we went there almost every week to get books. And on Sunday drives, this is when the era when you took Sunday drives, my father would take us down to Pittsburgh where we could go to Carnegie Library and Museum, and we were free to wander as we chose. My father also had quite a library of classic literature, and all of our grandparents encouraged us to read. Lynn read and read and read. She loved to learn. When she was a junior in high school, there was a science class that was not available at our school, so she decided that she was going to go to the University of Pittsburgh to take that class. And my father drove her down every Tuesday night to take this class. That paved the way for her to submit and be accepted to MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology. And she graduated and continued to learn ever since. Now, in 1964, we took a momentous trip. We went to visit our Aunt Pat and Uncle Ted in Connecticut. 1964, we were fortunate enough to go to the New York World's Fair, which was exciting, but what was really momentous about that trip was that my Aunt Pat took us to a store and bought each of us fabric and a pattern to make a skirt and vest. And that was the germ, the beginning of Lynn's love of fabrics and threads. In the 1980s, when she had her children, she developed a love of costumes. She worked on costumes because her children participated in local theater. In the 1990s, she learned a love for handwork, particularly cross-stitch, and you can see many of those items on display here today. In the early 2000s, she discovered a love of quilting. And again, you can see that some of those items on display today. Did I mention that she detested housework? Did I mention that she loved reading? Did I mention that she loved fabrics and threads? That, in 3 short terms, describes my sister. She was my older sister. She could annoy me beyond belief. She was my surrogate mother who taught me many life skills. She was always encouraging, always forgiving, always loving, and always my best friend.